This is water. I gave up coffee for Lent, and I think in 40 days I'll have aged 40 years. Welcome to Rumble Book Club. I'm your host, Mike Hernandez, and this is the show where a normal guy like me can talk about interesting books I've read, old and new, good and bad. So if you like the show, you like the content, you like the books that I talk about, or maybe you're just dying of caffeine deficiency as well, you've come to the right place, my friend. You could follow us on Twitter, Getter, TikTok, or Parler. We're everywhere. Or you can follow and subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. Side note, why does everyone say smash that like button, smash that subscribe button? Go ahead and do that, but I'm not going to say that. It sounds obnoxious. So just hit like and subscribe, please. Hit it. Hit it! But more importantly, be a part of the conversation. Let us know if there's any books that you want to read about. Let us know if there's any commentary that you thought that I got completely wrong on the book. This is a book club, so there's more than just me talking about these books. Let me know what you think. All right, today we're going to cover a new release. I really enjoyed reading this book. Today we're going to talk about The Truth and Beauty by Andrew Klavan. Andrew Klavan is the host of the Andrew Klavan Show with the Daily Wire. He's a renowned and awarded author, screenwriter. He's pretty much been there and done that all over Hollywood. He's just an overall phenomenal artist. I consider him somewhat of a Renaissance man. All I need to do is see him paint a little bit, and I think we're good. So, but anyway, in this book that he just released, came out about a week ago, you see a kind of a blend of his personal narrative, his life story, a literary history of the Romantic poets, particularly of England, and some of the greatest moments that we discuss constantly in churches from the Gospels, the story of Jesus Christ. So jumping right into it, as far as aesthetics, I don't know what goes into the decision making by Andrew Klavan when he selects the covers of the books and the size and the feel. Everything he does when it comes to selection is perfect. This is beautiful. I want y'all to get a good look at this cover. You see these well-worn books containing some of the classic poets and authors of English history, and then you've got the Holy Bible kind of nestled in the middle there. And just kind of this wraparound. It's very short, sweet, and to the point. It's just absolutely a beautiful cover. I love it. So as far as the aesthetics go, perfect score, 10 out of 10. As far as the readability goes, this is very accessible despite me not really having much aptitude for poetry or philosophy. I think the last time I actually read poetry and had to really read it was high school. So this was definitely kind of a flashback to those old days where I was struggling and falling asleep in class. But anyway, Klavan's mind is a very, very deep well, and his exploration of biblical texts and poetry can make for a couple of tougher parts. There are a few areas where it's like you have to kind of work through those paragraphs, sometimes reread them because some of the concepts get very, very deep. But overall, the book, for just an average reader like me, you are able to get plenty out of it. I got an insane amount out of it, and I do consider myself quite a simpleton when it comes to understanding poetry and the English history and stuff like that. But very accessible as far as the readability goes. Very solid, 8 out of 10. Now, let's look at the content. Klavan starts with his own personal questions, his own internal struggle about the meaning behind much of Jesus's teachings from the Gospels. You hear about some of the things he said that were very controversial about his Sermon on the Mount, which is where a lot of the teachings we come to know and discuss come from, is that Sermon on the Mount. He's talking about a lot of that, and he's retelling this experience of him having this discussion with his son Spencer Klavan, and how he's really having a hard time wrapping his head around this. So according to Klavan, his son gives him this absolutely gold nugget of advice. He tells him that maybe you shouldn't try to understand the philosophy as much as you should be trying to understand Christ, the man, the actual man who he was, the flesh and blood human. So from that point on, Klavan launches into a deep historic dive of some of the greatest English poets of all time, particularly from the Romantic era. So there are men like Wordsworth and Mary Shelley, Keats and Coleridge watched the world sliding out of faith. So very similar to, it's kind of maybe a foreshadowing, I don't want to say a callback, a foreshadowing of what we're going through today, this society that's kind of sliding out of faith. They were also kind of devastated by the fallout of the French Revolution. Some of the poets, like Wordsworth, were actual supporters of the revolution before, over time, this desolation and people being killed in mass, and the religious people being dragged out into the streets and guillotined. All of this really opened a lot of their eyes to what a godless society becomes, no matter how hard you try to make it center around logic or just the common rights of man. If you don't have God as a center, it really becomes a pit, a trap of despair, essentially. So a lot of those poets saw that, and many of them were also victims of that kind of godless lifestyle of rough indulgence. One thing that really kind of opened my eyes was how Mary Shelley grew up, this life of this promiscuity amongst her parents and in her own life, how these couples that just kind of swung around and drank to full indulgence, how devastating and how much of an impact that actually made on her, and how that kind of mindset really did create a lot of that inspiration for her novel, Frankenstein. What Klavan argues makes these particular authors and poets so impactful was that they knew there was an intangible quality to life that went beyond the physical order. They knew that there was something our physical selves had to connect to that went beyond the physical. There was a truth that required the human mind to connect what is there, the fact that it represents something, and the fact that its representation means that there is something beyond the physical to represent. Klavan also includes the importance of art, what art is supposed to represent, not just poetry, but music and the visual arts, paintings. There's a particular passage in here, I don't want to read too much, but that really struck a chord. I really loved it. Someone that graduated from art school, I teach art. It really hit a chord. In the words of Klavan, he says, a work of art speaks the truth we can't speak outright, the truth of the human experience, love, joy, grief, guilt, beauty. No words can communicate these. We can only represent them in stories and pictures and songs. Art is the way we speak the meaning of our lives. And I found that passage to be absolutely beautiful. There's also another part where he really discusses and opens up about the story of Jesus refusing to condemn a woman caught in adultery. I found that to be a really powerful moment that opens your eyes to the meaning behind Jesus telling the woman, like, has anyone, no one's chosen to throw a stone at you. This is the story when the woman's caught, she's brought before Jesus, and Jesus is kind of drawing, figures and lines in the sand. And they say, well, what are you going to do? The law says we should stone this woman to death. And he looks up and says, well, let he who is without sin throw the first stone. And Klavan's point is that, Jesus, by rights, right there, without sin, a man without sin, should have been able to just go ahead and dash her brains out with the rock, get this thing started. But he refused. He says, no one's throwing a stone at you. She goes, no. And he says, neither do I condemn you. So he really talks more in depth about that story, and I found that to be a very, very touching, a very beautiful part of that meant a lot. Reading it, kind of opens your eyes to that side of the gospel that maybe you didn't think about, reading it and listening to it from the church pews. But as far as the content goes, it's a no-brainer. It's a fantastic, perfect 10 out of 10. I got this book on Amazon. I actually pre-ordered it. I wanted to get it as soon as it came out. I was really excited. As soon as I heard it on his podcast and knew what it was about, I thought this is fantastic. This is fantastic even for Lent reading, which is when I try and do my spiritual development books that kind of help me grow as a Christian. Anyway, I found it on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon as well. The book is The Truth and Beauty by Andrew Klavan. Go out and get yourself a copy. Thanks for watching, everybody, and go read something.